I was in the grocery store the other day, which is where all my stories start, apparently. But there were two cashiers and they were talking and they were talking about how they could, now in this day and age, you can never trust anybody. And that very well may be true. I don't know. Uh, I'm old. Last time I dated anybody was 1986. You know, there are some pterodactyls flying over. The Magnum was still cooling. But I was talking to her and I said, you know what? I can't solve for the technology. I can't do that. But my parents had this philosophy, which was this is the world the way it is. This is the world that exists that I have to deal with. It's concrete and it's real and it has nothing to do with fair or whatever. It's just the way it is. Now, my father was born in 1919 and my mother was born in 1930, so you have to. There were a lot of things they were told they could not do, would not do, should not do, would not be able to do, didn't have the right to do. Uh, for instance, they wouldn't let black people live in nicer neighborhoods in Columbus, Ohio, and they wanted to live in a nice neighborhood. There was one place, Long Street, where they used to let black people live, and not that I'm talking about jealousy. Just hang in there with me. This is not a race thing. This is a jealousy thing. But I'm talking mindset, processes, and procedures. So they couldn't go on Long Street. That Long Street was the only place blacks would go. So whenever new blacks came to Columbus, they kept throwing them on the only place they could go on Long Street. So you get congestion, and then you get you get combustible action. So my father and some friends of his decided they were going to build their own community on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. They called it Livingston Heights Place. They did it in 1948. They bought the land from the Horsberger family. Luckily, people around there got money together to keep my parents, my father and his friends from buying it. But the Horsbergers were true to their word. They sold to them, and they had problems with the city, this, that, and the other thing. But my parents were like this: look, this is the world as it is. I do not accept that I have to participate in this world in the manner in which you have dictated it to me. Thus, I will do something different. And that's what they did. So I grew up in a neighborhood with doctors and lawyers and lawyers and doctors and lawyers and one was a school. She, I don't know. She was a big wig at the school, something or other. But it was because they made a decision. Now that they had to fight harder, they had to do more. It was more expensive. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But they made a decision about how they wanted to live. Now, here's where I'm moving this oval. I did not have to fight with technology. Oh, now see with the thumb thing. I wish I could turn that off. I with technology or um, the Snapchat or the Bumble or whatever it is, Tinder and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have to deal with any of that. So it was easier for me to trust and to have less jealousy. And also, people weren't as, well, we was during the sexual revolution, I will say that. But y'all seem to be getting busier than we were. But I don't know. Maybe it was my own personal thing. Please let me get off this topic. This is terrible. But anyway, what I'm saying is, so the dating world says this is how it go. You drop in DMs, you do this and this and this and this. You be like Shannon Sharp and leave your phone on during. So I thought that was just, I couldn't even believe that. But anyway, all of that, and you can decide if you got somebody you really love and they really love you back. You can decide to make your own neighborhood. You can decide to have rules about everybody's saying you got to put your status online and Facebook, and you got to do this and that. You have to post a picture of me at least once a week, or I don't feel good about your relationship with me. You can decide none of that will happen. That won't be easy. It won't be simple. It'll get you out of, it won't keep you in the mix with your friends on the on this and going to Facebook jail and all that kind of stuff. But it will, what's more important, your relationship or that busy work? Now, we had a head start on the busy work. We had rules about the internet because we could, and at one point, I ain't gonna lie, I was doing a blog and I said a couple of things that were more personal than I should have. I was general. Because I know I don't like it, but I was general, but you could kind of tell we were struggling. And he said something to me about it. And I was like, I didn't think he knew. Because he doesn't mess with the computer. I didn't think he read him. That's what you get. And he did. And I apologized. And I said I won't do it no more, and I didn't. Because he didn't like it. And then you see on Instagram, if I don't post him, I talk about other stuff, talk about other people. Don't talk about him. Just because you can decide with your significant other, you can decide if you live in a disassembled community where everybody's hanging around and hanging out and sleeping around. You two can make rules that say we're not going to engage in that part. We're going to have a merry state of mind. And when we step through the door, we step out of that community that is disassembled and we step into our home, which we have made our home purposely. You have to be consciously married, and you have to make conscious decisions about what you're going to do, because you can't defend your marriage from the outside, and especially with all of the technology, there's too many ways people can get to you or to your significant other. And if you have rules and boundaries around all that, that'll be less likely to happen. That notwithstanding, people will still do stuff. I had cases in court, people got, the waitress looked at him too long, so I had to lose my mind and all this kind of stuff. You can only secure a relationship from the inside out. In other words, make it so good, wonderful in it, they're not going to look without it. That don't mean be a simp or a pick me or anything. I hate those words. I can't believe I used them. Bad girl. But it doesn't mean to be weak. To compromise is not being weak. And to say, hey, I'll stop doing this if you'll stop doing that, is not giving up any of your personal, you know what I mean? You're married. There are rules to it. You should be consciously married and consciously make rules that you are all comfortable with about how you gonna run things. I started off in the grocery store with a conversation. I can't remember what the conversation was, and I'm confused as to what my point was. Except that don't feel like you're unable to dictate terms in your house just because, and I don't mean dictate terms by telling other people what to do, but to, like, leave the internet and all that kind of stuff, leave that separate. It's just really, really, it does odd things to you. You can be true to yourself without being glued to yourself. You can have a great relationship, have fun on Facebook, and not have the two intermix. You can. That might require you to have a more meaningful life. In other words, you have to be able to talk about something other than who's doing what to whom and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe that is it. Maybe that isn't it. I don't know what to tell you. But you got power. You gotta, you know, don't get caught up in a crowd, you know? Don't just go with the flow and ride with the tide. You can't go with the flow if you're not quite sure where the flow's trying to go. And the next thing you know, you'll have yourself an internet viral sensation issue based on something somebody else did because you just kind of jumped in the river stupid and kept flying down with it. I've jumped in many a stupid river. Found myself upstream somewhere, not downstream somewhere, wondering how the heck this happened. It happened because I didn't pay attention to what I was doing and I kind of went with the program. And then I realized the program was not written for me. So then I had to write my own. And it was harder, but it turned out more like I wanted to turn out. That's all I'm saying. You have power.